Welcome back. Glad to know that you're able to stay. If you've just joined us, good afternoon. It's a weekly news roundup. My name is Sandra. Now, as we move on to other activities that you could have missed out during the week, we saw government and NGOs creating awareness among rice farmers to adopt to climate-smart agriculture for sustainable rice production. During the stakeholders meeting held by Kilimo Trust in Tororo District, farmers were tipped on upland rice growing to ease pressure on wetlands.
The government of Uganda prohibited the cultivation of rice and all other crops in wetlands to protect wetlands from degradation and save Uganda's ecosystem. As a result, government is collaborating with NGOs to train rice farmers on climate-smart agriculture in Bukedi sub-region to not only conserve wetlands but also increase farm yields. The project Reduce, Reuse, Recycle Rice Initiative for Climate-Smart Agriculture project is an initiative of Kilimo Trust.
This project, funded by the IKEA Foundation, called R4I CSA, basically is about Reduce, Reuse, Recycle Rice Initiative for Climate-Smart Agriculture. We are focused on reducing excessive or needless use of excessive water. We reduce on excessive use of water. We reduce on use of inorganic agrochemicals, particularly the nitrogen-based fertilizers in our fields, which are responsible for greenhouse gas emissions. So today we are focusing on educating farmers, for instance, on why it is necessary, together with the research data, because we are working with our scientists from Naro and also scientists from even across the region, to basically show through empirical data that actually rice doesn't need to have continuous flooding.
Rice contributes highly to greenhouse gases with methane, nitrous oxide and carbon dioxide as byproducts of rice farming and the rice value chain. Rice is responsible for 10% of the global methane emission. The R4I CSA project is designed to increase rice productivity, improve rice resilience and reduce greenhouse gases.
Rice has played, in terms of all the agricultural crops, rice plays a very key role in terms of greenhouse gases emissions because of its way of production in the flooded conditions and the inputs that are used within those wetland conditions. So there's a lot of greenhouse gases emissions from rice production areas. Secondly, rice production under wetland situations requires a lot of water, basically flooding the fields for the rice to do well. So therefore, you can see the nexus between rice production and the wetlands.
Part of government's plan to protect wetland encroachment is sustainable land management practices and reforestation, climate-resilient agricultural practices, and alternative livelihoods for communities living in wetlands.
So you cannot talk about conserving wetland without talking about rice growing. So we are here to create a way to deal with the rice growing. One, to try to sensitize people on how to replace rice with other things like can be fish farming or any other agricultural activities that can conserve the wetland.
I think what needs to be done is to look at, one, the competitive advantage of our engagement into rice. Farmers need to be given the economics. And if they really look at the economics, you never know, many of them might abandon it. Because after all, their rice is nowhere seen in Kampala. It is invisible. So that's one other thing. But the other thing, if we really do the calculations and it is competitive, then we have to engage our production systems and see that if production must be done in the wetlands, it must be technically guided and supervised. Let the farmers, let the rice production be done in the schemes that are designated. And then we leave the other fragile ecosystems to do the common good, the public good, to nature.
Sarah Mubale, UBC News, in Bukedi sub-region.